The creator of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Hirohiko Araki, is without a doubt one of the most influential manga authors of the past 40 years, if not in all of history. But even if it sounds crazy or even blasphemous coming from a guy that is constantly glazing JoJo like me, we have to admit that at one point Araki simply sucked at creating manga. It's understandable since every single goated artist ever was bad at their craft at some point, but the most interesting thing about Araki's journey as an artist is in how he stopped being bad, but it's actually a part of his career that nobody talks about, which is his bizarre reaction to his prime. So today at Warland, I want to take you guys on an adventure down Araki's career. Not only to see how he stopped sucking at the things he was passionate about, but also to hopefully see how you and I can apply this to the things we want to pursue in life as well. But before we go down Araki's career to see how he was able to create this unique world with these amazing characters, let's talk about the sponsor of today's video, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Golden Spirit. An all-new cross-generation JoJo RPG where players assemble iconic characters from parts 1 through 6 and experience cinematic stand battles with anime-inspired visuals. This game is packed with diverse gameplay content for you to experience, including strategic battles, character progression, team-building strategies, and several different game modes. In here, you will not only be able to customize and strengthen your lineup through character development and skill enhancement, but also enjoy gameplay full of signature poses and memorable moments from JoJo's. Golden Spirit is a revolutionary game for the JoJo community as it is the first ever globally released mobile JoJo RPG on the App Store and Google Play, including social features like guild systems, friend functions, and multiplayer interactions. And as if that was everything, the game is currently celebrating their official live launch event, which is full of activities and rewards for all new players, such as an SSR Jotaro Kujo special summon event, or the opportunity to experience a special character story event following Jotaro's journey through the third arc of the series. Join the adventure now and download JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Golden Spirit on iOS and Android. Thank you so much to Golden Spirit for sponsoring this video, and now back to the video. Hirohiko Araki, whose real birth name is Toshiyuki Araki, was born in the city of Sendai, Japan in 1960. He grew up in a pretty standard household aside from the fact that he had two younger twin sisters who would bully him constantly. Naturally, he started spending a lot of time either alone in his room, out on the street, or at his grandfather's place, which is where Araki discovered three things that would define his entire career: manga, movies, and art. His grandfather and his father were the kind of people who loved making things regardless of what they were. And during his time with them, Araki grew fond of mystery novels like Sherlock Holmes. At the same time, he found great comfort in manga from authors like Osamu Tezuka or series like Babel 2 that had combat with specific rules and laws, which I imagine planted the seed that would later become the stand power system. Through his father, he also discovered the painter Paul Gauguin, who not only used color as a means to express feeling, but was also so committed to art that he moved to Tahiti to pursue it fully. This devotion to his craft is something that really resonated inside Araki. And to tie all of these ingredients up, when he was only 8 years old, one of his friends complimented the composition of his manga as he drew a side character way cooler than the protagonist, which he then told Araki made the manga look interesting. This is the moment in which Araki decided he was going to become a manga artist. Unfortunately, at this time, manga had a terrible public image in Japan, so his parents, his teachers, and everyone warned him that reading manga would make him stupid. So Araki had to draw in secret for years as he worked to master his craft. During the many hours and years he spent working in secret, Araki was also developing his eye through film, fine art, and building a taste that was completely unlike any of his peers. But wanting to make manga and actually making it professionally are two very different things. And that is a truth that Araki had to deal with very early on. During his first year of high school, Araki started submitting his work to publishers, which might sound like very early in his life to realistically be pursuing any success, except for the fact that while he was doing this, other kids his age were already getting serialized in some of the biggest manga magazines in Japan. So while other people his age or younger were breaking through the industry, Araki was getting doors closed in his face and feeling like he was falling behind his peers, which is something that I feel we can all really relate to, especially in this day and age. Unfortunately for Araki, every single one of his submissions got rejected. He did so poorly that the biggest award he received during this time was an honorable mention in the 1977 Tezuka Awards. This long streak of L's that our boy was taking is simply because he was just really bad at creating manga. Because despite the fact that he liked amazing media and had goated taste, he was still lacking at his craft. And to make matters worse, after every rejected submission, Araki never got any feedback to help him understand why it sucked. He could not understand why his work wasn't making it, so he did something that honestly required a lot of courage for a teenager at the time. In 1979, he worked for days on a manuscript for a manga one-shot. Then he got on a train and went to Tokyo to get direct feedback from an actual editorial department. He arrived at the weekly Shonen Jump building, and one editor named Ryosuke Kawashima read the first page of his manuscript only to tell him that he hadn't even fixed his whiteout, which is a tool used by manga artists to clean lines. The editor kept criticizing his work page after page, but once he was done, instead of sending him away discouraged, he told him to fix it and submit it to the next Tezuka Awards. So Araki went home, fixed it, and submitted a one-shot called Poker Under Arms, which won second place at the Tezuka Awards in 1980. And that was Araki's professional debut. Despite this huge victory, publishing a one-shot is still far from being a serialized author. So while Araki continued to analyze popular series and practice his craft, he went to college to study fashion design and was even a mannequin makeup artist. After this period in 1982, he published a one-shot called BT the Wicked Boy. He introduced a character named BT, a cunning, manipulative, and genius boy who was created by Araki as a way to mesh what he thought was doing good in the industry, which were cool, youthful characters, with the type of narrative that he was actually passionate about, which were mysteries and thrillers like Sherlock Holmes. In 1983, that one-shot became Cool Shock BT, which was his first full series in Weekly Shonen Jump. But sadly, it only ran for 10 chapters, which is around 2 months. And I know that 10 chapters sounds like a really short run for a manga series, but the beautiful thing is that Araki had finally made it, and now he only had to improve. In his book, which I would really recommend you guys to read, Araki explains that Cool Shock BT's failure was due to his hyperfixation on the story without developing his character. People didn't really care about BT as a character, so at the same time, this made them disinterested in the story, which is the moment when Araki started internalizing that a successful serial manga had to rely on its characters and not on its plot. This also made Araki realize that despite how badly he enjoyed telling these narrative-centered stories, they weren't the type of story that the audience was demanding or the type of story that worked as a serial manga, which forced him to experiment with new genres and characters. He followed Cool Shock BT with Bao the Visitor in 1984, a story about a parasitic organism that gives a boy superhuman powers. Then came Gorgeous Irene in 1985, which was about a female assassin with a double life. And then, in December 1986, the first chapter of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure appeared in Weekly Shonen Jump. It took him 6 years from his professional debut to get here. 6 years of rejections, close calls, short series that didn't quite land, and relentless submission. But after 6 years, he finally made it. After a whole lifetime of being fixated with Western movies, music, and art, Araki created a series unlike anything that had ever existed in manga before. But this also meant that some people couldn't really understand it. On the artistic side with JoJo's Part 1, we can see that his drawings were less ambitious to what we got used to in later parts, which could be a subconscious result of the constant failures he had in the previous 6 years of his career. We can see him pulling inspiration from popular and tested series like Fist of the North Star, but also maintaining that sense of uniqueness that helped him stand out in the first place. By choosing to tell his story in 19th century England, he was able to pay homage to the stories he loved as a kid, like Sherlock Holmes, and start developing his visual language through posing and clothing. But despite these qualities and improvements, JoJo Part 1 suffered in reader surveys and popularity, as I think we can all agree that the general consensus is that JoJo Part 1 is the weakest part of them all. In Araki's own words, this was because of how much Jonathan Joestar was losing during the first couple chapters of Part 1, which made readers dislike him for a good amount of weeks. Thankfully, the series did well enough to allow Araki to continue with Part 2, which was immediately better received than its predecessor. But Araki's life was really changed forever with the release of Stardust Crusaders. JoJo Part 3 was a huge hit for multiple reasons. A cool main character that kids looked up to, an amazing story structure of the characters traveling to a destination, which allowed the characters to continue progressing towards a goal and keep audiences hooked, and the amazing stand power system, which in my opinion is Araki's solution to tell action stories that the public enjoyed, while at the same time allowing him to throw in all the mystery, thriller, and body horror that he could come up with. From the artistic standpoint, Part 3 also has an elevated style from the previous 2 parts, which could be attributed to the fact that the story took place in modern day at the time, which allowed Araki to be creative upon contemporary clothes and characters which people already knew, which in my mind is like closing the gap between the base knowledge of the audience and what Araki wanted to make. And on top of that, thanks to the experience and confidence he was getting from the success of the series, his art style was getting cleaner, more defined, and more iconic, which he would then continue evolving in Part 4. Part 4 is not only my favorite part, but also a very special moment for Araki considering that he was coming off the very first big hit of his career, after which he would thankfully decide to steer his work further into his personal interests like the murder mysteries he saw on Western media like Twin Peaks. On top of that, the ability to make stands work in an international adventure like Part 3 to then apply them on a slice of life mystery like Part 4 really cements the idea for me that stands were the primary resource that Araki needed to develop his stories from a character-driven perspective while he tipped the scales between battle shonen and uncanny horror manga. Artistically, he was also committing to more complex and aesthetically pleasing designs or more bizarre ideas and coloring, But truly, one of Araki's biggest moments as an artist really came with Part 5. Part 5 pretty much mixed everything that was amazing from the last 4 parts with the addition of an insane fashion design inspired by Araki's deep love for Italian culture, fashion, and lifestyle. Some people may prefer when JoJo characters were more buff, like in parts 1 to 3, but for me the truth is that the character designs, clothes, and stands from Golden Wind are really the product of an art style and storytelling that had been curated for the last 20 or so years. But finally, with part 6, we get to the moment that I was referencing at the beginning of this video, which is also the most impactful moment of Araki's career for me. Artistically, part 6 is like a continuation of part 5 with slightly more realistic drawings, 2-page spreads, and amazing fashion design. Creatively though, this part was like the last arc of part 5 on steroids, featuring reality-bending stands and concepts which ultimately led to the end of the story, and the end of the series being published on Weekly Shonen Jump. After he finished Stone Ocean, Araki stated that with part 6 he felt like he had reached a creative peak due to the abstract concepts and stands that he was working with like Made in Heaven. As an afterword to the last chapter, he wrote the following: "There is nothing more incredible. My creativity has reached the highest point. That is what I thought. I normally think that feelings like a sense of satisfaction or personal realization are extremely scary. Finding yourself in a situation where you think everything is going well and you don't need to do anything more is without a doubt a terrible situation. As a person and as a mangaka, but also if we think about society and about the development of science, philosophy, art, and culture in general. People act to achieve something, to obtain satisfaction above all else. But what do they do when they reach it? This contradictory feeling crept up in my heart while I was coming up with an ending for Stone Ocean." Like I said earlier, this to me is the most impactful moment from Araki's career because, at least for me, it is rare to see an artist that I look up to come close to this feeling of completedness and feel absolutely terrified by it. It's a little crazy for me to think that if we had asked him at the time, he might have said that he felt more creatively encouraged during those 6 years that he was struggling to get serialized than during the moments he felt like he was done expressing himself through his work, which is a very Imagine Sisyphus happy situation. I want to discuss that feeling a bit more in depth in a second, but before that, let's finish Araki's story. Thankfully, after taking a break and switching to the monthly release schedule, Araki brought JoJo's back with what is, without a doubt, the best work he's ever done: Steel Ball Run. Araki's response to his own feeling of realization was to restart his whole world and this time bring us another period piece, just like part 1, with another protagonist also named Jonathan Joestar, but this time done as a seasoned and developed artist who fully understood his themes and style. At this time he was also getting collaborations with fashion and art brands which further pushed the design of the characters towards that supermodel look, which again goes full circle with his life experience. With part 8, which is my second favorite, some people criticize his repetitive way of drawing faces, which I feel like is a valid critique, but I don't really feel negative against it. From a story perspective, part 8 follows a man trying to understand who he is, which Araki wrote after his childhood home was destroyed by a massive earthquake, which he recalls as a traumatic experience and really inspired the first chapter of part 8. And finally, with part 9, we see the continuation of a fully realized art style that complements these new abstract concepts that Araki is pursuing in the second universe, like it is personal growth, the understanding of the self, or the mechanisms that move the world. So with that said, now closing Araki's story, I do want to go back to what he said after he finished part 6, because it is really not common for an artist to reach this moment of satisfaction and be able to express his thoughts so clearly. For me, Araki's story provides a lot of comfort because we not only see his relentless fight to get to that point of success, but it also gives us an example of what we could do in the case we got to a point of satisfaction or feeling like we don't have any other reason to express ourselves. To paraphrase what Araki was saying, it is true that humans have this inherent need for purpose, and to feel like you no longer have a purpose must be absolutely dreadful. For the reason that we are able to see how he was able to conquer those emotions and give us even better things than what he had produced before, I consider Araki to be one of my biggest inspirations in life. And this part of the video will be a lot more unscripted than the first half because I was just telling Araki's story. Right now I just really want to talk about what those things Araki said left on me and what I would like to discuss with you, and just how much of an inspiration this could be for you and for me for pursuing whatever we're passionate about. For me, this video is the new beginning for what I want to do with Warland, because throughout the last almost 2 years that I've been on social media, I've been making things that I find interesting and cool and funny, but it's been really rare for a video that I make to fulfill me, you know, to feel like, wow, I feel amazing about what I made. I think if I was making those things that I was finding fulfilling, but failing at that, I would have had a slightly better time than what I've had so far, which is some videos perform good, some videos do okay, but it's nothing that I feel really proud of myself, because I feel like I'm just, in a way, copying or mimicking what I see works, but not what I want to do. Recently, I took a really big break so that I could understand that, because I was really not finding any enjoyment in anything. I was too focused on follow counts and like counts and kind of obsessed with the nature of the game, but not with what I was actually making. And thankfully, after a lot of thinking, I came out of that with the realization that what I started making this social media journey for was to pursue my passion of storytelling. Since I was a kid, I've been really passionate about this, and I am so passionate about it that it even made me move out of my country, out of Colombia, and come here to the US at 16, and that was 6 years ago. And I'm still actively pursuing it, even though I'm not even studying that in college, or I'm not even working in anything related to it right now. But it's something that just moves me deep inside, and I see those feelings mimicked in Araki's story, even though he was a lot more active about his passion. So like I was saying before, Araki had these emotions of feeling left out, or like he was falling behind from other mangaka his age, like Yude Tamago, which is are the ones that he talks about in his book. But then again comes the great comfort of seeing that he was able to overcome those things, overcome those emotions, and get to the point of success and to the point of feeling artistically realized or artistically successful, and feeling that he could actively express something through manga or through art or through fashion, and people related to it and felt understood what he wanted to say, you know, because Araki, several times during his early years, he felt cursed to be misunderstood by everyone. And I feel like that is the nature of who an artist is someone who is trying to not only be understood by others, but also understand themselves. And right now, that's where I don't feel like other people don't understand me. I just feel like I perhaps don't understand myself, my style, what I like. I just like so many things, but I don't know. I know I like many houses, but I don't know what kind of house I want. But at the same time, right now, I'm just trying to get the tools so I can build a house. So right now, I'm really at the base level, and I'm already 22. So, you know, the director of the A24 movie Backrooms, I think, is 20. So you feel you're being left behind. And in this day and age where everything is just a click away, and we have so many tools, so many available opportunities for us to pursue what we want, be it art, be it medicine, be it architecture, whatever you want to do, I feel like it's our responsibility to really pursue that wholeheartedly. I realize that if you made it to this part of the video, you may be feeling like this video is super cheesy, and you think that I'm really cringy, which may be true. This video was very disjointed, but I really wanted to make it just so I could put this down, put these emotions that I had down somewhere, and hopefully have a discussion about that with you guys. Because a lot of the things that were holding me back were that for about a year, I was just making cookie cutter, influencery, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure videos and whatever. People found them fun. I felt that if I make that shift towards what I really was passionate about, which is storytelling and understanding these creators and these narratives, I would lose all that effort that I put into it for a little bit more than a year. But thankfully, since I've made the shift a little bit more on Instagram as well, and in my last couple shorts, which I would really appreciate if you went and watched and told me what you think, people have been really receptive, and that brings a sense of relief, but also drive to now having to prove myself to the things that I've said. Because now I started this whole series exercising my creativity until one day I can tell stories for a living, which is true. That is something that I am passionate about, and not saying day one of reading JoJo's every day or reading all of Berserk in 24 hours like the anime man. I know that if I had success in those things and was forced to make them, I would not be happy, because those are not the things that I want to do. This is who I am. Not, you know, if you go watch my last videos, like all the videos I've had on YouTube up until this point, that is not who I am. You know, some of them are better than others. Some of them I actually like, some I hate. But all of them were made from an incorrect perspective, is what I believe. I realize that I've been talking about myself too long, which is okay because it's my video, but I also don't want to detract from the fact that I really want Araki's story, or any successful artist's story, to be inspirational for you and for me and for anyone who would be interested in pursuing anything. Because some people really don't care about being an artist, but they really care about being the best doctor they possibly can, the best pilot, the best architect, the best whatever, gardening. And now with this social media grind, I feel like a lot of hobbies and passions have been turned into a job. And I do think I am very lucky and blessed to have this platform here, because I have been able to generate some revenue from the things that I like making. But at the same time, I feel like social media has somewhat poisoned the views of people of what they're passionate about, and having to create a social media page for it no matter what, and having to be good at videos and then be good at whatever they want to be doing, which maybe stops people from actually trying. And I feel like that's very sad. Going back to Araki's story and the things he said that shocked me to my core, I feel like anyone who has made anything creative, videos, paintings, drawings, music, whatever, I feel like every time you make something new, you look back at the things you made before and you think they're shit. And that's kind of beautiful, because you feel like you've grown. I would be really frightened if I look at the things I made before and I said, whoa, I was way better before than I am now. That would be really discouraging. But that cycle of always evolving and always learning something new and learning better ways to express yourself through the things you make, I think is very beautiful. But also in that cycle, you do produce something that helped you express yourself very effectively and really resonated with people, and you feel really accomplished creatively, which is how I felt with some of my last videos ever since I made the shift. The editing for this video might also be super choppy because I'm just rambling and talking, and sometimes I fuck up and I cut it, but I really wanted to do it. I really wanted to exercise that, because all of my videos so far have been so scripted, and I talk with such a fake voice that at the end I'm like straining my throat, but I never let myself really talk. And now this is it. Of course, I'll clean the useless things. I won't waste your time, because I really appreciate you guys being here. But yeah, I genuinely never thought that I would find so much inspiration and drive from starting and watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It's a beautiful piece of media, and I love that I have that as a connection with like 60,000 people across all platforms. And I'm just very lucky. I feel very lucky, and I feel very excited to show you guys where this creative journey takes me. And I hope that you guys go on creative journeys of your own and decide to share that with me eventually. As you keep going, as I keep sharing, I would love for you guys to share back. But whatever, I'm done talking and rambling and glazing Araki. At the end of the day, what I wish that I did with this video was not only delineate a new chapter for what I want to do on the internet, but also I hope that Araki's story or whatever I said made you want to pursue whatever you want to do. Because that is, for me, that is what the entire human experience is about. It's just taking the best advantage of the miracle that it is that we're alive and that we're here. You know, the chances of that are this big, and to do the best you can with those possibilities, for me, is what makes us human. Now I feel like I'm just saying whatever, so I'm gonna let you guys go. Thank you if you made it this far. I love you. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.